Harut came, he suddenly made me feel very old. Because he asked me how long are you teaching? I said 36 years. He said I'm 35. Then when he was talking to all of you, whenever he had to say old, you look at me. So normally I thought I was very young. Ivan was one of the earliest students. I mean, I didn't teach him in senior college. I used to be in junior college also, 11th and 12th. Among other things, he's an excellent dancer. He used to dance a lot of our hostel programs, and he was a hit. And normally we wouldn't allow people to whistle. But his dance, people said, at least for Ivan, we have to whistle. So he's very good. He also is a very accomplished musician. That is something you should know. He's performed at the NCPA. Tomorrow evening he's performing. He trains people, so that is another facet. So those of you interested in music and a lot of other things, I think we should also spend time, not just about what he's going to talk, because he's so multifaceted and he's somebody who just doesn't stop studying. He's done his MPhil, MPhd, one PhD is finished, he's starting another PhD. So I'm sure he'll inspire you to go on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's such a joy to come back home. Sophia College is where I work, and my heart's beginning to have feelings for that place. But Wilson has been my home. It's been a place I've always loved. And as she rightly said, the best student days of my life, formative years of my life, started right here. And thanks to teachers like Professor Sudhakar, and also we had Reverend PGDET as well, many years ago. He's not in India at the moment. So, well, what actually started this process of talking, sharing, was one of the ideas that Sudhakar and Ashok Patel instilled in us. And that was question. Ask questions. Not with an attitude that goes nowhere, but because you really want to know, you don't agree, or you have a different point of view. And if you are, as a student, all of us are willing to think about what we do, why we do what we do, how we do what we do, and move on in life. And I've kept that all the time as one essential principle of my philosophy of education, and that is the importance of asking questions, and to always rethink and critically think. And from there on, there's been a journey of many learnings, and today I'm here telling you something about the challenges of sexual minorities. So would you help me with the slides, since you're right here? So could we move on to the slide? The slide does not determine my discussion or what happens here, but always has a habit. Oh, okay, I should not fidget. All right. I'm going to start by defining what I would like to see as being sexual minority. What does that mean? And for the purpose of this session today, I want to tell us, before we start, what do we hope to attain at the end of this session? So that's very clear, it's on the board, it's on the slide there. I would hope that you will gain further insights. Many of you may be familiar with LGBTQAI+. Some of you do not know much about it. Some of you know a little bit of the L and the G, but not about the T and the A, or the H and the K, which are not even there in that soup. All right? So let's clarify this. What does all that mean? Some of you probably are aware. Many may not. A critical appreciation, not just knowing, but also thinking through. If I know that this is what L stands for lesbian, and T stands for transgender, and plus stands for any other possibility that exists, and there are numerous possibilities. Therefore, how does this affect the way I behave, the way I think, the way I relate to people in my workplace, in my classroom, in my college, in my neighborhood? So we need to critically think, be critical of ourselves. And that's why I said a critical appreciation is important, and we hope we can also begin this process. I'm not saying you'll achieve it, but you'll at least have started the process. And the third, all very well to have a nice course on LGBTQ rights, or gender diversity, inclusivity, whatever. But at the end of it, what do we do with all this knowledge? And that's probably the one problem with our education system. Maybe problem with many education systems, is sometimes our cognitive processes are at work over time. We're thinking, we are learning, we are understanding, we have the conceptualization, but where do we take it after that? And that's what is called the affective domain. Not just head knowledge, that is important. If you don't have the knowledge, you can't even begin to do some things. So having the knowledge, and then taking it forward. Okay, I know what LGBTQI, etc. means. How does it affect my behavior? What change am I going to bring about? Do I need to change or am I perfect? And that's important because we need to be agents of change. We are not static people, we are not a static society, not a culture. So we need to be at the microcosm of society, each one of us a little catalyst for change. Somebody who can initiate the change in that small little group called family, starting with your parents, siblings, and that group can expand. So the third objective is for me the most important. But you also need to have the knowledge so that you are not prejudiced, so that you are not unaware of the meanings. And only when you've got clarity, and that's what we call the cognitive domain, when you've got clarity about what you're thinking, the concepts, its usages, then you take it to the next level, and that is, does it affect who I am as a person? The affective. So I should think that this festival, why do we have it? What are the objectives of your Human Rights Festival? And I'm sure, besides giving us a lot of gyan and knowledge from people or experts or activists, etc., is also to help us think as we move along in life, how are we going to affect, is that knowledge or awareness going to affect the way we relate with people in our own small micro groups. Forget the universe at the micro level. And that's, you begin as an agent of change. My PhD work was essentially about change. And why did I choose the gay movement? One, because I identify as a gay person, number one. Number two, because I want to make the change. And I want a document out there which is a study of the phenomenon. And then I want to shout loud about it, because I believe in it. Because that's who I am. But not everybody is confident or bold to talk about who they are, whether you are an Adivasi, whether you are Dalit, whether you are Hindu, or whatever our identity is. We've got multiple identities. So enough of that. Are you clear about the objectives? This is what we hope to achieve. Okay? Time is scarce, and I shall back up a little bit. Could you please change? I am not going to talk about the entire range of sexual minorities because there are so many. And for this discussion, I'm only referring to, though my research work is essentially centered around the gay community in Mumbai, I'm going to focus on the LGBTQAI+ community. So I'm not referring to sexual minorities, which also include sex workers who may be transgender, female or male. Okay, so I'm not including that dimension into this, but you could well extrapolate. Alright, to the next. You've all of us have heard about this? I didn't even know it is called an alphabet soup. Of course, it's a way of putting it. And it was one of my interviewees in the course of research who mentioned this phrase, and I kind of liked it. An alphabet soup. And I wondered what all alphabets could there be. And if you like, it is these alphabets which probably have come from outside India. The L for lesbian, you tell me. G for? Gay. Go on. Bisexual. Only clear? Only clear? Questioning. And any other. There is Hijra, there is Koti, there is Panti, there is Aravani, and you can go on and on forever. You can add more letters. It will become an alphabet soup, literally. Okay? So this is the broad spectrum, and this is not complete. So this is, I'm focusing on all of these communities when I talk about sexual minorities. So the plus stands for any other category. The LGBT, typically it's a label that has come from the West. Sure, because very often people think this whole idea of being gay or lesbian it's a Western import. It isn't. It's been around forever. We didn't use the labels. The labels came from outside. But people have always been around. Gender fluidity has been an ancient concept from 3,000 years ago. So it's not new, but we're talking about it in the context of sexual identity, sexual rights, human rights, sexual rights is human rights, and so on. That discussion has brought in these new alphabets, and now we are familiar with it. So what is new? What is important are the alphabets, these concepts. But the behavior, the identity has always been around. Probably we didn't talk about it too much, or we're not used to talking about it, so now it's time to begin, if we haven't already. Next, please. Okay, these are some challenges. I cannot cover the entire range of challenges, but I'm going to go along with some of these challenges that I have identified. This is not plucked out of any book or internet. I mean, I think experience in life teaches us many things, including myself. Right. The first thing, who am I? If I were to ask about identity, that's what this is all about. I am me. So you can say I'm Ivan, I am male, I'm gay, I'm an atheist, I'm a Marxist, I'm a pro-feminist, I'm a pianist, I'm silly sometimes. I mean, I've got so many identities. And so I can't think of just one way of describing who am I. And that who am I is so important. It's not merely I'm so-and-so studying in TYB economics roll number XYZ. That's just one small fragment of who we are. So who are you? Do we even know who we are? Beginning right with ourselves. Sometimes afraid to acknowledge who we are. I did not come out until year before last. I mean, we'll talk about what coming out means. Alright? But all along, I have been who I was. I have been gay forever. But I didn't know the term gay when I was 4 years young. I learned these words and the meanings, or learned them all wrong, in the course of living life. I'm 51 years young now. But in my early days in school, didn't even know these words. Homo, yeah, we knew it. And we'll talk about some others. So, what is your self-image, your worth, esteem, acceptance, and finally, your identity? Do we hide who we are? Are we willing to say that I am who I am? Where do you get to a point when you can confidently say, yes, I'm a lesbian woman, or I'm an intersex person? Then you might wonder, do I have to say it? But I don't have to say it. Why do we need to say it? Why do I need to tell you that I'm gay? That doesn't change the way I teach you as a student. It doesn't change the way I relate to you as a learner. It doesn't matter. If I was inverted comma straight, I don't like that word. If I was heterosexual, you wouldn't even think twice about anything. But the moment I say I'm lesbian, intersex, bisexual, polysexual, asexual, pansexual, whatever sexual, then immediately all these little filters come in. And then you see me through multiple layers. So is he hitting on me? I'm not. Is every heterosexual person hitting on every other person? I don't think so. Well, there may be people who do. They could be gay or lesbian persons who do as well. So that's nothing special or unique to a person who belongs to the alphabet soup. Alright? So we just take it for granted that with the rest of the world, it's all okay, but with us, you've got to see us through a prism, through a particular lens. And that's not okay. Why are you differentiating? Why are you discriminating? Do I not have a right to love or be who I am? I'll share some stories later on. Okay, could we move on to the next slide? If there's anything you want to ask in the middle of a slide or at the end of a particular slide, please feel free to do so. Right? One-way lecturing is not great fun, always. Okay, coming out. What do you think coming out is? Come on, let's throw the ball into that side. Anyone. I would find it hard to believe that not a single person out here knows what coming out is. What is coming out? Just go ahead and say what it means. And you don't have to identify with the category to know what that means. Alright? Acknowledging what? One's, let's say, sexual or gender identity, specific. So I might have said I am an atheist, so I've come out as an atheist to my students. So they know I've come out as an atheist to my students. So you know that sir doesn't have to be he's a Christian, he's in a Christian college. So so they can know who I am. Why do you hide who I am? If I'm an evangelical Christian, I might say it. Doesn't mean you have to turn or be converted in that moment. So coming out is a way of acknowledging who one is. That's on the one side. Is that the only way you come out? Who else needs to come out? Now, at this point got me started, of coming out, and what does that really mean? Only like 2 days ago, when I was thinking about what is coming out. And I knew the meaning that you have just shared with us, that I come out, means I tell the world, acknowledge. Now here's the hint, acknowledge.
Accepting who you are.
Okay. Okay. Who is accepting them?
Yourself.
Yes. Yeah, first with oneself. Do I accept who I am? Do I come out to myself? So that's one. Second, I might come out to some other, whoever the other is. It could be my teacher, it could be my classmate, it could be my buddy. So I come out to another. We'll discuss why we need to come out, that's another story. But there's another angle to coming out. The very fact, and I would say, can anyone think about that possibility? What coming out in another context, in the context of sexual identity and coming out? Here's a clue. We have the Queer Azadi March every Jan. Jan is a Pride month in India, in the West or maybe America particularly. It's celebrated, I think, in June. But in India, we have it in the month of Jan. So the whole lot of activities is called the Pride Month. And in Sophia, we always have a Kashish Film Festival, the Queer Film Festival. And at the end of that month, we have a Pride March. It's called the Queer Azadi March. At that march, you have people from all of the alphabets that we've spoken about are there. Is it only us who belong to the alphabets? So there are other people too, right? And those other people are whom we call allies. You don't have to be queer, lesbian, etc. in order to stand with us and recognizing that we exist as people and we have rights just as anybody else, or ought to have rights. So the ally bit, and the very fact that you've come to this session, there are many who might have thought, maybe you did too, I don't know. Should I go for the session? It's on sexual minorities, it's got the word sex in it, so I'm not going there. If I go for the session on tribal, yes, I'm studying tribal sociology or something like that, and therefore I can go, it's legitimate, all of that. But sexual minorities, manje, LGBT rights, no, I'm not going there. क्योंकि लोग सोचेंगे कि निपन ऐसा है. Not necessarily true. Because you could well just be an ally. So even for you to come out and say, I want to go in here, I want to educate myself. Number one. Level two, I will also advocate rights for people who are different than I am. And to come out as an ally, बहुत सारे लोग ना, they will not even tell anyone, no, I will just stand at the side. मेरा नाम clear. So, I mean, so you're scared to even say that you're willing to support a group that needs representation or needs justice. And to stand with somebody, to stand with a rape victim, to stand with anybody. And to be an ally out there in the open. Not only in hiding, not only in classrooms, not only in the safe space of our harbor called college, when there's a wild ocean out there. So we need to, coming out is not only for the persons who identify with the categories, who may identify. There are many who don't like these alphabets nor the labels. Okay? Now, why do we need to come out? You tell me. Let's pass it on to that side. I'm talking too much. Why do we need to come out? Why does anyone need to come out? the people in the alphabet soup, or the allies. Why do we need to come out? What's the big deal with coming out? Why do I need to wear my sexuality on my sleeve? Yes, please.
Because we live in a heteronormative society,
Sorry.
we live in a heteronormative society where everyone is assumed straight.
Right. And therefore, we live in a society that's heteronormative, yeah, where everyone is straight. I don't like the word, but then it's there, because that means I'm crooked. Okay, but I'm not. Even if I am, who cares? Alright? So, yeah, because we live in a heteronormative world, and therefore, why do you tell people that I am so and so? Why do you think?
To normalize the fact that there are people from this alphabet.
Right, to make for greater visibility. You know, because if we don't, and that's one of the things, why did I come out? I didn't need to. I mean, why do you need to know whom I'm attracted to emotionally, sexually, or any other way? That's really none of anyone else's business. It's my life, right? But why do I need, and this someone told me, said, coming out, one, to yourself, I need to know who I am at the very micro level, at me, my identity, accepting who I am, not living with guilt and fear and shame and sinfulness and the rest of it. So I need to come out to myself for my own sake, so that I live my life in a fulfilled manner. I live my life without shame, without blame, etc. Why do I need to come out? Because when I come out as a teacher who is gay, there may be one student in my classroom, and there are always, who come and tell me, sir, whatever. I once did a session with some science students. It was a packed classroom because compulsory, you know, mass attendance, have to sign the attendance register. The whole gym band comes in there. Whether they're interested or not, I don't know, but the session went on for more than it should have. And at the end of the session, there was one student who was operating the computer and very quietly doing that. I don't know who she was. I still don't know who she is. And I did my session, thanked them all, and went to the staff room. This person came, followed me. I didn't know that. I often tend to run along. I reached the staff and said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Yes, please come in." "No, sir, you come out." Which was fine. Okay, pun intended. So I anyway went to the door because our staff room is like, a sacred space. Thou shalt not enter. Okay, that's Sophia culture. And so I said, "Why didn't you come in?" I said, "Just break that damn halo and come in." She said, "No, sir, you come out." I said, "Fine, he came out here." "Sir, I'm lesbian." And she ran. That was it. I mean, just for her to even probably tell somebody in that 180 strong staff, maybe she's told other people, I don't know. But for me, it was like she was willing to share some slice of her life, some part of her identity with a kind of stranger because I don't know her at all. She might have seen me, I don't know, but she was willing to share that. How many people who are LGBTQIA+, etc., can even tell themselves, number one, tell another? And we often say primary group, family, the most loving group, and the same most loving group has tarnished the well-being of their own children, has demolished their happiness. Not every family, but there are. I know one of the interviewees in my research, he told me how his family had thrown him out, and till today has not accepted him. And about 4 persons among the 19 interviewees were victims of child abuse, child sexual abuse, right within the family circle, the extended family circle. 4 of them. That does not mean, therefore, that everyone who has been sexually abused, every male who is sexually abused, for example, necessarily turns out to be a gay human person. There's no correlation. But their stories are real. The trauma that they go through are real. Some have to go through to psychologists or even psychiatrists for intervention because they can't cope. This gentleman whom I know is dealing with it even today. It's about 4 years now. He hasn't gone home since. And his abuser was his uncle. And nobody believed it because his uncle was a respected socialite, in that part of India. So why do we need to come out? Because when some people come out, as she rightly said, and some of you did too as well, you kind of normalize the whole idea of being lesbian or gay or bisexual. It's just who I am. It's not a put on. And I object and I strongly protest when people say it's a sexual preference. I don't prefer to be gay. Why the hell would I want to be lesbian and be treated as an ass by everybody else and go through hell? It's no fun. I don't think I would want to do a sex change just for the heck of it. I mean, the amount of torture that you have to go through, bodily torture and pain and agony, and not to forget the expense. It's not just it's not a choice. It's not a preference. It's who I am as a person. So if I'm lesbian or gay or whatever else, it's who I am. I can't put on. Now you might find there are people who put on, maybe because they want to have just some sexual escapades or something like that. Well, then that's not real. Frauds are there everywhere, okay? But the rest of us would not be. I mean, I would not stick my neck out in the world, in the society, in the community in which I live, for the sake of doing something that's in. It's a question of who we are. We exist, we are not invisible. Okay? Then there was a phase when we criminalized. So there was invisibilization, there was criminalization with the Victorian law. A Victorian law rooted in Abrahamic texts. And even the British have gotten rid of it. And we clung on to it. And that fight, and this is where pressure groups, mobilization is so important. Not good enough to just sit and talk about it, study about it, because you need to get down to the brass tacks and act. Out there, not in these corridors. These are easy. I can give you a talk, you're impressed, whatever. You go out of these portals of learning or corridors of learning or unlearning, and then you go out there, and that's where you make the difference. In the real world. And that's why I said my last objective is we become agents of change. We can't fossilize into some existing way because that's what it used to be. And we've got to be real to ourselves, don't we? So I don't need to pretend that imagine the plight of a person who in school has to pretend to laugh at sex jokes or pornography and be excited by what you see on that screen just to be in with your gang. And inside of you, nothing happens. I mean, nothing in that little video clip or joke or humor or whatever has got you started. But you have to pretend that, guys interest me if I'm a lesbian woman, or girls interest me if I'm a heterosexual male. I have to pretend. Why should I pretend? Do I pretend to be Sardar? Do I pretend to be poor when I'm rich? Why do I need to pretend? I need to be who I am. And that's an important part of this identity thing. Because you live your life in a certain way. We have an identity and we have a right to live the way we are. That's the human right part of it. Not just on paper, not just by conventions and laws, but actualizing it in our day-to-day life. Not through mere scholarship and degrees. That's one way, but that won't change anything necessarily. And we need to take it out there. So coming out is important, and this is where one of my interviewees from the Humsafar Trust, he told me, Ivan, so are you out? And it kind of struck me. I was interviewing him, by the way, and he asked me this question at the end of the session. It was a 1 hour plus interview. And then he asked me, I said, yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't need to hide who I am. I'm not ashamed at all of who I am. And then he said, what prevents you? And that's the time, voila, at the age of 49, a bell. What prevents me? And then I said to myself, I'm going to tell people. Not that people didn't know. People might have inferred. Inference is no good in this context. You can't just infer that somebody is gay or lesbian or bisexual on the basis of external behavior or characteristics. Because there are numerous prejudices and stereotypes, and the media is hugely responsible for that. So don't judge a book by its cover. You have the most macho, inverted comma, I don't like these words, macho men who are gay, and the most feminine women who are lesbian. So you don't have to think that all women who wear t-shirts and cut their hair short are therefore XYZ. So wrong. And it could also work, but so wrong if you just generalize it to any and everybody who walks in a certain way, talks in a certain way, holds a bag in a certain way, speaks in a certain way. That doesn't say anything about that person's sexuality. And what the hell's your problem about that, anyway? Why can't I just be who I am? Do I comment on the way you walk, on the way you talk, just because you don't fit in? And what is this fitting in? Fit into what? For whom? And I'm not going to just fit in to just save my own ass, because I need to live who I am. Therefore, we need to shake this entire structure that we are in. In fact, my theoretical foundation of my thesis is this, that there is a structure, social structure, but the social structure is not a monolith. It's not something that can't be changed. We are the society. We are the structure. We can construct the structure, and we can demolish it and change and alter it. So we are active agents in that structure. The structure is not there which we have to go and fit in like a jigsaw puzzle. We can change the shape. So we are active players. So coming out is important for people. When you see somebody say, that person's out and about. Everyone likes to comment on Karan Johar. And I mean, they do. But he has not stated in so many terms. Why is he not stated? Now that's not for me to answer. He will, if he needs to come out, if he even identifies in the categories, despite what you and I might think and have inferred. You know? So ultimately, if I come out, there must be somebody out there who says, well, if he can, she can, so can I. Why do we need to come out? Because we need to, in a very heteronormative society, where that is the norm, the way to be, the structure into which you're shoved. You want to say that, hello, I exist, I'm here, and I'm queer, and I'm here to stay, not going anywhere. So I exist, I'm human like you, I have feelings like you, I have sexual drives like you, I'm hungry like you. I'm not some alien species. And this is important. Let's go on to the next slide. This will be evening by the time I finish. Impact on health. I'll club this with the next one too. Right. When I say health, I really mean, well, physical health is one aspect of health. I also refer to the mental health and the emotional health. If I'm going to be teased by somebody, hey chick, hey hijra, hey homo, hey lesbo, but kaitari, whatever. Imagine getting these labels forever. I got some of these labels when I was in school. I didn't know much of what it meant, but I got the implications. And we learned to just turn a deaf ear. We learned to live with it. How many women have had those labels? Oh, she's a tomboy. See the way she dresses. See the way she sits. See the way the people with whom she hangs out. And they take it. Have you even, and there's an activity that comes up later, that I'll talk about that later. So, how can you be productive? How can I be my best if I suffer from these pangs of I'm being labeled, I'm ostracized, I'm hit upon, I'm criticized, prejudices prevail all around. In that ethos, I shrink in and get down. I fail to even exist. And you want me to be productive as a teacher, as a lawyer, as an artist, with this kind of environment of gloom? And that's where we need to think that my productivity, if I'm a person who lives my life the way I am, not because mommy and daddy wants me to fit into that box, because I'm an intersex person and mom and dad think I should dress up as a female. And when puberty hits, it's hell, all hell broken loose. Because what might have worked between ages 0 and 11-ish, once the hormones kick in, then you can imagine what happens to that intersex person. I mean, where do you fit? We've had stories of eminent sportspersons and their stories going public and people demolishing them in an instant, praising them 24 hours prior to that. What must they go through? I mean, their whole life is out there for all of India and the world to capitalize on, perhaps, or whatever else, demolish. So mental health, physical health, emotional well-being. I am so lucky that one thing in Sophia College, I've been very fortunate to have, I have Catholic nuns as our principal. And despite what we, including myself, my own prejudices about the Roman Catholic Church on these matters, or maybe even others, my principal, she's a nun, but she has never stopped any of us in any department from conducting activities related to gender, sexuality, LGBTQ, queer, whatever. Right from English literature department to political science to sociology to any other. She's never said a no. We are going to have our 4th edition of Kashish in Sophia College. It's now become every Jan, Kashish has to come to Sophia College. Has to. And principal now gives me the Baba Hall, which she usually doesn't give it for activities which are not directly associated with the college. But she's never said no. Never. That's a big deal, to have a leader, to have a teacher, to have a little group in college, which gives you that support. You feel you have your space. I know in Wilson that we've had many issues, especially when St. Andrew's House wasn't there. Now it's there, but in a different format. But students and teachers, and we've had students who had identities which were not, inverted commas, straight. And what they might have gone through. And that environment, I'll come to that action and how we can bring about change a little bit. Next, please. Yeah. Harassment. I mean, when you harass, any form of harassment, physical, verbal, facial, sexual, emotional, extortion, you may not even know that when a person belonging to the gay community, for example, engages in some kind of sexual behavior, even in quiet spaces, and I'm not going to spill the beans, that's my privilege, and people pretend to be who they are, pretend to be gay, and this has happened to one of my friends. And the person caught him, took him to Grand Road Station, made him go to an ATM and withdraw 50,000 bucks in one night. And then inquired about where he works. And this boy was mortified. This man, not boy, he was 40-something then, was mortified. And to hard-earned money, 50,000 bucks one night by a guy policeman who pretended to be gay. Here's the pretense. We have extortionists. And why do they make you feel miserable? Because you are scared for anyone else to know that you are gay or lesbian or whatever else. And you're scared of being outed. That's the worst thing ever. If a friend has told you, you know what, I have feelings for girls, I'm a woman, I think I'm lesbian, but I'm not sure. The very fact that that person has shared a very small part of that person's identity or confusion with you is a great thing. And you out the person to somebody else? How dare you? I mean, that's the essence of a relationship. There's an element of trust. And these are sensitive issues. So sensitivity to people who share their stories with you. Not to go and paint the walls outside and say so-and-so is XYZ. That's not okay either. Emotional blackmail, yes. I will out you, I'll tell your parents. We've heard of numerous stories like that. Many of the cases, even in my own research, they spoke about how people would threaten them emotionally. And you're so scared that somebody would come to know that you are one of those identities. You won't have sleep. It's a nightmare. Okay. Yes?
So, you mentioned that you're an atheist. What happens
You're right. That's another bigger, terrible challenge, because many religions, especially the Abrahamic ones, have a Christianity, Islam, Judaism, tend to frown upon people who do not conform to heteronormativity or masturbation, sexual behavior, foreplay, rest of it. And the reality is still that even within, I can speak from the point of view of the Christian, because I've had some experience there, is that even within the Christian church, there is no unanimous voice saying, this is not okay. Some denominations frown upon it. Some are nice and silent. They don't even talk about sex, forget anything else. Alright, they just keep quiet. They'll have seminars and Bible studies and the rest of it and thematic retreats, but they will not touch upon sexuality. They suddenly jump and they go elsewhere. They'll talk about love and all of that. But that love does not include the love between two people of the same sex/gender. That's not discussed. But there are religious communities which also talk about same-sex relationships, and of course, now it's a matter of interpretation. And that is how even within the Christian church, I'm giving an example from Christian church, even if you talk about the Roman Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, and the Protestant Church. Within the Protestant, I'm sure, and even within the Roman Catholic Church, now the RC Church is opening up to discussing issues and respecting you as an individual. However, thou shalt not have sex. You know? I mean, I had some of my research interviewees, they were devout faith believers in the Roman Catholic tradition. But they said, I couldn't go to church anymore because I always felt like I was not welcome. Today, of course, as I said, the church is saying, no, you are a child of God. They didn't say this like a decade ago. Now they're saying you are a child of God, you are important, but you cannot have sexual relationships. So you either abstain from sex, easier said than done, or and just channelize your energy elsewhere. I mean, try doing that. All the best. Okay, so anyway, they live with this dilemma because they love the church, they love their Jesus, they love their faith, they love their God, even from other traditions, but they don't know how to deal with this reality. Muslim men who are gay or who are bisexual and the community that they belong to or the smaller group to which they belong will not hear of it. I mean, what can they do? So then you have said, okay, and I did not become atheist because of my gay identity. So let's not even put them together. They were two different paths. And I was the same guy who wanted to be a brother at one point of time and a father at another point of time, even the religious father. And the same guy went full circle now become an atheist or probably even an anti-theist, not just an atheist. But what happens to somebody who loves their faith and their belief ideas and says, but this is who I am. And I cannot just not have sex. I cannot just not masturbate. I cannot not just do X, Y, Z because that's my being. And don't tell me to shut it up. And that's who I am. So that's a dilemma that people, and then what actually happens with some people, say no, if the church or XYZ organization cannot accept me, take care, I will do all the things that need to be done, but I will also have this parallel life alongside. So I'll get married to a woman, or a woman will say I'll get married to a male, but I will still have my space to be who I want to be. So you almost lead a dual existence. Then you wonder, is that right? And then you talk about the morality of it and the rest of it. Is it right to live this double life? Imagine the partner who has to pretend that, he or she really loves the other, but will make the baby and all of that happen, but actually is gratifying oneself either through masturbation or through many heterosexual men who go to transgender people for sex, or even the Aravani community, the Hijra community. Who's going to them? It's men who are going to them, and oftentimes heterosexual men, and oftentimes married heterosexual men. Now think about that. Who are the clients? Okay. I had the good opportunity of speaking to a transgender person, MTF, male to female transgender, And she was telling me in Kerala, and she told me every traffic signal junction after 7:30, and she explained to me many things, but I didn't get all of the routes, is filled with transgender persons who are engaging in sexual behavior, sex, bottom line, in order to make money. Because nobody's going to give them a job. Their families have thrown them out onto the street. Their education has stopped at 7th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade. They couldn't continue because that's when puberty struck and they don't know who they are, what can they do? And they're out there, they can't live this life anymore. And they don't want to become a eunuch living in a social community, cultural community either. They don't want to be in a community of such. And therefore what do? They leave the home. Imagine somebody 16, 18, 21 leaving home in a society where most of us are thoroughly dependent on our parents for our economic survival. Let alone emotional survival is another issue. And she said, these people, as much as you tell them, you have got to work and educate and train in a skill and then get a job, who the hell is going to give you a job? She says, when we go our homes have thrown us out. So when we go to a place for rental stay, they look at us and know we are not female, not cisgender female, and immediately the rent goes up by 5 times. 3,000 becomes 15,000. My salary is 7,000 to 8,000. How the hell do I survive? I don't have a place, so I engage therefore in sex work. Who's coming to me? All this inverted commas straight heterosexual men, or probably even gay men, are going to them for sex work. Whether it's oral sex, anal sex, or whatever else, or mutual masturbation. Sex is sex. Now you will have to define which format. And this is where they get their money. And some are able to get even 10,000 bucks a night. And some may get only 100 rupees. So those who get the money say, no, we're happy with this money. We're going to continue with this because we need to live. Our families have thrown us out. They don't care about us. They say, you come back as a boy, we will take you back. But this wearing a sari and all that, nahi chalega. I mean, their reality is different. Maybe I can share some more stories when next week I'm going to Kerala. And they've called me for a transgender conference, and it's been organized by the Youth Welfare Board. Fortunately, Kerala government has a Youth Welfare Board with a special focus on transgender community. And there is, very close to where I live, a building where trans persons who are transitioning from one to the other have to be operated. I mean, there's hormone, blah, 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 and there's operations as well, top surgery, lower surgery, etc. They need a place to rest. It's not like just removing a tooth. Gets okay in 2-3 days. You're cutting a part of your body. The healing process is much longer. Emotional scarring, of course, is already there. And they need a place to stay. That entire building is for these people. So, let's move on. Hate exclusion. Exclusion, I'll talk about it when I come to the latter part. Okay. I need to really buck up now. See, when I start talking, I talk too much. That's the problem. Societal acceptance is the difficult part. You can't wait for society to, accept you and then we will do the XYZ. When we spoke for women's rights, the decade of women's, International Decade for Women, 75 to 85, women said, no, we can't wait for society to want to bring in rights for women. We have to start now. It's an ongoing process. It will never end. Same is the case with any other gender rights issues. You can't wait for society to be ready to accept. बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं Indian society तैयार नहीं है. Are we going to wait for them to get ready? It will take another 20,000 years, perhaps. I'm not going to live that long, I'm quite sure. So we have to start the process. You can't just wait for things to happen. And how does that change happen? With us as individual activists in our own little space and our little zero areas. Convincing, making a person understand, making your mother understand, your brother understand, sister, sibling, friend, teacher, teachers. Many teachers don't know many things. They really don't know because no one's told them. In my college, they say, sir, Ivan, you're the only one who talks about transgender all the time. They must really think I'm transgender too. But that doesn't matter what they think. The point, at least out of 6 teachers who teach them, there's 1 teacher who will talk about TG or LGBT issues. Imagine in all the subjects, if there were these references made to different communities, different stories, our curriculum could be so enriched. I have an exercise on that one, but I'm going to now go fast forward. Equal rights, I've spoken. Equal rights. We're not saying we are higher, lower, beside, whatever. And rights could mean all kinds of rights. From the right to be who I am. So 377 was a big deal. Not that life changed and now it's hunky-dory. Certainly not. In fact, there are many more problems to deal with now. And extortion still continues. So when we talk about equal rights, the right to be who I am, number one. But even if the Section 377 does not criminalize who I am, for me to stand up and say I'm lesbian or transgender, the law has got nothing to do with it. I mean, it's important, but I don't have the guts to say who I am because my environment pushes me down under. So the law can give me the rights. The law gives you the right to marry who you want in this country as long as it's a heterosexual couple. But how many people say, nay, my mother will not allow because my girlfriend is a Muslim or I am a Christian or XYZ, whatever. So law to kanun tum kehte hai na? Nobody can force you into marriage. Not a single person on earth can force you into marriage. But if you don't have the power to resist, I chose to be single. And many people still think I can get married. And they will tell me, okay, you can still get you're in women's college as if because I'm teaching in women's college, I'm going to find a life partner. I mean, ridiculous. I mean, how do people think? Am I hitting on my students or my colleagues? And, I mean, ridiculous. I mean, how do you even associate the two together? And they still think I have a chance to get married. Now I tell them, no, I'm not interested in women. I tell them to their face, then they wonder what's wrong with me. Let them keep wondering. At least it will set them thinking. That's it. Yes, this non-alignment. I know you are students of political science, many of you, and my knowledge of non-alignment, I've lost it. I've forgotten what it was. Sorry. Look at the next two slides when it comes up. The sex of a person. And now I think you had a workshop on sex and gender, so I will not go there into detail, but just take this. The sex of a person, if you want to fit the binary, now there are many people who don't want that binary, but given the fact that there is a binary, and you say there is male, female, and we have one more sex category called intersex. Okay, fine. So wo ek hi hai. Second, you saw gender, then you talk about femininity, masculinity. Again a binary, sorry to say, that's a binary, you can demolish that binary, but there's an entire spectrum of femininity to masculinity, and then you have androgynous persons, we have the feminine side and the masculine side, and there are lots of yarn about that. Okay, and you may not want the label, pansade, femininity, masculinity, and androgynous. Then in terms of sexual orientation, again the binaries, heterosexual, homosexual. Then you have a hajar other sexuals in between, pan, poly, asexual. I mean, there are a whole lot. So even sexuality is also a spectrum. So the next two images, I'm not going to discuss the images. You can do a post-mortem of them in your free time. It's called the gender-bred person. And you might have seen it. I just saw it about 4 days ago, and I liked it. I Googled it, and I'm just... it's plagiarism, but it's not really plagiarism because I've cited my source. So you can change the site. This is the gender-bred person, and then there's a further version. The next one too. Version 2.0. It's very in to say 2.0, 3.0, 5.0. Mala might nahi kaya hai, but okay, so 2.0. So you're non-gendered. I think the development of this version compared to the previous version, I'm sorry, there are two students who may not be able to see the board. But I will talk to you about it later if you wish. Okay, so gender-bred person. So demolishes the binary. Non-gender. So I don't want to fit between masculinity and femininity. There are multiple layers. And this is the alignment thing we're talking about. I don't have to, I'll just give an example to sum that up. I don't have to be a male person, masculine in my identity, heterosexual. I don't have to. Any combination, the tracks can go any which way. And that's the plurality of gender, sex, diversity. You don't have to always fit. I'm a female, therefore I'm feminine, therefore I'm attracted also to men. I'm attracted to men. So the alignment. So we see non-alignment is okay. And I think that's the next slide. I think that was the earlier slide. Okay? So you can have this PPT thing and maybe discuss it further, but I will take it further from here. Could be the way ahead. So now this is the thing, the point 3 of your objectives. I hope you've got some understanding of the complexity of the issues related to gender, sexuality, the spectrum, and the issues with binary and making things fit into boxes. Alright? So what do? We are all learners, including us teachers. We are also learners. A teacher who stops learning has stopped. It's terrible. It's the last thing that it should not happen. It's not the last thing. So we also learn, you are also learning. So what can we do? Here we go. The language that we use. And this I'm very conscious of, especially since I'm into writing textbooks for the state board. And I'm utterly conscious that we need to be gender inclusive in our language. You can't use the he, him and his pronoun all the time. Your examples can't be about he, him or his. You have to use examples which include people who are different. In whatever sense of the term. It might be regard to not just gender, it could be regard to sexuality, regard to caste, regard to class. So you can't only give examples which are urban examples just because you happen to live in an urban area. So tribal examples, rural examples, examples from poorer homes, examples from richer homes, that makes the experience enriching. Otherwise the students are going to say, hey, sir, metro and train, we don't have even a proper bus. What do you talk about metro? Metro manje kai? I mean, we don't have a metro. They don't even identify with that concept. But you and I in the urban city of Mumbai, we know what a metro is. And we know what that monorail is. Half the time it doesn't work, that's another story. But the point is you and I know. So, use language that's inclusive. Inclusion in policy. Institutional policy. Will the warden of Mexican Hall, whoever it is, say, well, if you identify or we think you are out as, let's say, a bisexual person, you will not get admission into the hostel. Not okay. This is not okay. Inclusion means it doesn't matter what your identity is. You want admission, you're a student, get your college admission, hostel admission based on merit. The criteria can be very clear, objective and laid out. You can't use my sexual orientation as a basis to discriminate against me. That's not okay. That's not forward thinking. So do we have policies? Today there are companies who have policies for people who are LGBTQ. Now it's become fashionable actually. They call us, please come and do a session. Because they can't find any other gay person or lesbian person or intersex person, please come. And now because of this damn PhD nonsense before my name, everybody calls me. Otherwise I was down under, unheard of. Okay, now everyone's calling me every week. And we say, Ivan, are you in college? I'm outside college, right here, I'm out here. But that's good. I take it as an opportunity to go and talk and speak and shake them up a little bit, if not more. Okay. Then, role as educators. We who teach you and you who learn. It's a training process. It's not just us, it's you as well. And I want you to do this activity, maybe not now if there's no time, but later, and I'll tell you about the activity. Safe spaces. I'm very proud to say that in Sophia College, it so happens that I am the staff in charge, whatever that means, of a club called Students Social Reform Initiative. And this year we started a Sophia Queer Collective, SQC. And the SQC is a safe space within the SSRI. It's meant for our students in Sophia College who want to come and just be who they are, to share stories, poems, art, discussions around issues, concerns, a safe space where nobody will judge them, and you don't have to say, I'm lesbian. You don't even say who you are. That's none of my business. You are who you are. And for some activities, we invite people who are outsiders. Outsiders meaning, now this outsiders, insiders nonsense is there. That's another thing we have to deal with. And it will come up at some point of time. No, we don't want people who do not identify to come. Then how do you send your message across? We only fish in our own pond and we are there. Same soup, all of us are enlightened, abused, exploited, and we all cry together, laugh together. Then we are in our own, little ghetto kind. So we need to also break out. So we need to have some activities which gets other people, allies, to come in. Or even people who are not allies, who want to know what the hell are you doing? Cha, let's go. Like many of you have come here. And maybe one of you or some of you will go out thinking about something. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you will if you have a child who identifies in a different way and say, Arey yaar, what did that fellow say 20 years ago when I went to their classroom? Abhi, Sida, it's you in the face. Then you will discover America. Okay, so, aage kya hai? Acha, thank you. Okay, should I talk about thank you as well? No, there is that activity thing which I'd like you to do. We'll start the reflective one. It's only a moment. It's 13:01. Oh, no, the pehle wala, reflective. I think probably it's the number 3. It's number 3 on the stage. Okay. This is for thinking about. Just think about this for a minute. Don't even write. The writing thing will come in the next one. I don't need to read it for you. We are all literate people. But you have to think for a little bit. Go back in time to your student days, college days, this year, whenever. You don't need to share this with me. This is for you to reflect on. Yeah, please kindly. Yeah, thank you. Do you know any other labels? Have I exhausted my list of labels? I've conveniently put etc. That works very well. Any other labels? Sorry? Aha, yeah, gay, of course. I want to other than the alphabet soup. Sometimes I also take exception to people, a woman saying I'm gay. I say again, that's patriarchy playing its game again. Or when many students address an entire mixed audience, they say, hi guys. In Sophia we get it all the time. And I say, why are you appropriating that term for this group? Would you go to a room full of people who had men and women say, hi chicks, or hi gals? You'd never do that. But hi guys, chalega. I mean, maybe popular culture or what that means, but the point is, I mean, why would I want to go there? And by the way, there are also people who belong to the community who say, we don't want marriage. Marriage is a way of reinforcing that idea that there has to be a relationship, there has to be somebody who's in control, in charge, and all the bandwagon that goes with it. There's a lot of baggage that goes there. And we don't want that baggage onto this. We want to just be gay people, or lesbian persons, or trans persons who love each other and live as a couple, cohabiting. We don't want the institution of marriage. It's overrated, perhaps. Not necessary. And so there's an entire spectrum of those ideas too. Okay, now to the written activity. This is for you to think about, so I will not get into your brain. The written activity, which is what I would like, especially our teachers, to do it now or even later, and all of you at some point of time. Please go to the written activity. Yeah, the example that I gave you. This is the actual format you need to write it in. The other one. I think it's red color. Yeah, that's one. Okay, just read this for a bit. I think my assumption is quite right. I don't know whether there's any other college teacher or student here except myself, but I'm a Wilsonian anyway. This is important, stock taking. How many of us in our courses as teachers, some of us on boards of studies, how many of us have programs, courses, modules, units, subunits, which talk about issues related to the gender sexuality spectrum? And most of us have to say we don't have much. Literature has done a lot, I know, they were one of the early ones to start. Sociology did a lot of it. And then it has found its way into the great FC course, I know, at some point of time, which is actually a fantastic course. I don't know why it has been frowned upon. It's a brilliant course if I think you can get the excitement going. But that of course depends upon how we do it. Kindly go to the table. It's an example. Please do it at some point of time. And if you can share that feedback with me via the Political Science Association, I would be very happy. That's why I gave out those, I had those one-side newspapers. And both of you students may also kindly please suggest your ideas and please take it. Okay? This is very important because then we know, do we have anything going? You have a talk on LGBTQ rights, sexual minority rights, etc., etc. But translating into action. My second PhD work is on gender inclusion in the educational space, and want to see how we can make our educational spaces gender inclusive. Therefore, this inclusion-exclusion thing. Okay, we need to include, we need to talk about it, not shy away from discussions. Okay, while you're just looking at the slide, I want to share one or two stories. Right? This is called Greed. I mean, my thesis has many of these little quotes of people who actually said what they said. I'll just read maybe two, okay? Right. When I was growing up, this is one of the respondents. When I was growing up, I grew with low self-esteem, used to wear girls' clothes, mothers' clothes. I was happy. Family and school could not relate to my behavior. School could not relate. I liked cleaning and cooking. Parents were a bit worried. These are the exact words. I could not adjust. Depressed, introvert, closet feelings and loneliness. Later my seniors abused me. Even at home my uncle, I mentioned this, verbally and sexually abused me. I could not even open up to mom and dad, afraid that they will throw me out. Even girls and teachers pointed out names. Labeling, name calling, even teachers do it, students do it. It was very pathetic, narrow-minded, stigma. That's what, these are the words. Yes, I do support the rights of gay persons, as I'm a proud gay and also citizen of India. I'm not doing any crime, so why should I fear? I just wanted to spread love and make people aware that gay people are not bad. They are the same as straight people. And about marriage, all this is bullshit. I want my legal right to marry. In India, you can marry a cow or buffalo. No government sanction is asked for this. I mean, there were stories of people who got married to creatures or a tree or something like that. And that's okay. But I want to marry another person I love? No, sorry, wrong number. And the last one, trying to choose now. Yes, this one. Sex education in school. Many schools have sex education. They put nice words to it, value education, life education, but they don't use the word sex. Okay, very typical of certain kinds of schools, as you would know. Sex education was skipped for boys. It was only for girls. A married auntie taught. In biology, the chapter was skipped in my class. The chapter on reproduction. That happened even with me in my 10th standard, way back in 1984. We studied biology, we read the book. We studied biology meaning read the book. We finished the course in 9th standard for a 2-year course up to 10th. So we read through the chapter on reproduction. Not a blink, not a discussion, nothing. That's not a way to teach. And sex education, you only talk about heteronormative ideas of sex. Heteronormative relationships. What about homosexuality? What about bisexuality? What about sex and gender? Even the difference between sex and gender, no one talks about it. They talk about how you need to live your life and be this moral person and go gaga over it. And they don't talk about the real brass tacks, we don't get to know. No wonder we look at the internet for that's our savior. For all our sexual needs or our peer groups. Most of us have learned about our sex behaviors, habits, impressions, ideas through our friends and the media. How many mummies and daddies spoke to us about anything except don't do? है ना? Teachers पण same. Jada, no, we don't talk about these things. Class में भी नहीं. So we need to change as well as teachers. So thank you for your session. Thank you for inviting me here. I hope I've made you think about things and I hope I made you uncomfortable. Uncomfortable to an extent where you think about what you need to think about. Because it's not about being good or nice. As one conductor told me, somebody mentioned, he's a conductor who is very particular, music world, very particular about performance and quality. He said, I can be very nice, talk nicely to my choristers, choir singers, or I can get the best out of you with discipline, and get the musical results that should be. They don't often go both together. So even in the context of classroom education, relationships, we need to talk. Don't just be nice. And if someone passes a joke which is anti-lesbian, anti-gay, or a friend who passes remarks, snap that person right there and there. And there's a way to do it. Arrogance is no good, but there's a way to win people over. Thank you very much for your patience and for listening to me for 11 minutes beyond my time. But that wouldn't kill any of us, trust me. Alright? Thank you. Bye-bye. Dhanyawad. Yes, please, the gentleman on the first bench.
Basically, I want to ask you some different questions. My question is what that week is almost coming to end now for us. Tomorrow is the last week. My question is what various people are here getting knowledge about various disprivileged sections. But my question is what? Outside this room, when I observe the people who are already taking knowledge here are not applying their knowledge in their practical behavior. So my question is what, sir? What prevents them to apply their knowledge, whatever they gain here from various experts, and do not apply to their practical behavior? What prevents them?
Okay, thank you. Fantastic question, which actually came up in my very first or early slide when I said the knowledge that you gain is no magic wand that suddenly you get the knowledge and आप बाहर जाके change होने वाले हैं. To internalize that new information, to process it, to get it into your system whereby you are sufficiently motivated to talk about it and be the agent of change, that's when the change will happen. So, as आपने ठीक से कहा है, that we get the knowledge through experts, activists, whatever, whoever, but just getting the knowledge is not the end of that journey, it's the beginning. And until you internalize it, and by internalization I mean, it becomes a part of who you are. I believed in women's rights, it was in Wilson College. Mrs. Nimkar and Nina Himes, my sociology teachers 1989, who sowed these ideas in my head. And since then I have never stopped thinking about the issues and becoming sensitive to language and gender inclusivity. In those days you only spoke about female and male. And today you have gender discussions which talk about female and male. What about transgender persons? What about people who don't fit the binary? So you're right, we need to become practical. Why are we not practical about it? Because probably we've not processed it enough. And that's what I said, we've got too much of cognitive. We're always thinking and analyzing and that trying to always think and analyze, synthesize, all of those words, evaluate, all of that is head knowledge. The next bit, the next domain of learning is affective. When it touches you at a point whereby you think about it, you emotionally connect with what you're learning. No point espousing equality or humanitarianism when you can't do it with your own housemaid in the house and treat her fairly. And that's why that trigger has to come from within. And the reasons why they don't happen may be your own lethargy, your own lack of knowledge actually. By attending a lecture, nothing magically changes. Does that answer your questions? Okay? Anyone else, please? Yeah. Anyone? Now the debate. You. Acha, chala na pade. Bol.
So, you've shared with us really insightful steps about what we can do to make whether just our space is a safe space. But I want to particularly talk about coming out. I'm sure a lot of people find other people as their safe space to come out, but these people don't know what would be the appropriate response. So, what would be some steps or some things to be mindful of when somebody comes out to you?
Okay, you're talking about the other person, the one
Yeah,
who's
the
the
other
listener.
person.
The listener.
Yeah, the listener.
I think the very first thing is the very fact that another, let's say a lesbian or a bisexual or a trans person, shares their story with you. Are you willing to hear? Willingness on your part. That's the first step. नहीं इसके बारे में बात मुझे नहीं सुनना चाहते हैं. Many people shut down. Emotionally shut down, mentally shut down, otherwise also shut down. They don't want to hear your story. So, okay, yeah, sure, tell me, what is it you want to say? No, लेकिन किसी को मत बोलो. Private है. You respect that wanting to be private. Second, you honor that person in terms of honor the trust that you develop between that person who's sharing that information with you. You dare not tell a soul about it. Unless there's an element of danger of the person harming oneself. Then you need to get professional assistance. Because you as a peer may not be in a position to deal with a person who says, I want to end my life, I love her, but she doesn't love me back and I don't know how to deal with it. Now, as a peer, or even as a teacher, I don't know how to deal with it. I'm not an expert on dealing with cases of where it's life-threatening. So I need to get in touch with people who can provide that professional help. So that's very important. The third is, never out the person who has shared one story with you. And if you are not sure, clarify. If you don't understand, my friend's telling me that she or he or they is the pronoun for trans persons. It's got nothing to do with the structural grammar. If the person is telling me something, I do not understand what you're talking about. I mean, I'm confused. Because the person thinks you're a good friend in many respects, a confidant. But I don't know how to help. So you need clarification, get it from a person who can give it to you. Either a counselor, a teacher who is more aware than you are. Because you need to be sure about how you're going to help this person. So I think these are the starter, at least the starting point. Anything else, please? Yeah. I'll come to you. Others are not straight. Yes. You're right. You know what? Like once upon a time in the word black was used to label people who were differently colored. And that term, which is derogatory, seen as derogatory and labeling, has been embraced by the community. And today, blacks are proud to say, yes, I am black. I'm a black sociologist, I'm a black musician. That's it. Same thing, queer, manje, weird, ajib, whatever. And today, queer people, and not all people in the alphabet soup are happy with the term. That's to say, to each one's own. So I like to identify myself as queer. I don't feel the need to say that I'm specifically gay. I could be asexual too at times. And again, that is the issue of gender fluidity. I don't have to be something, and it's a decision. I want to be a priest at the age of 16. Today I'm an anti-theist at 51. How did that happen? It can happen. That's me. I can change. I'm not fixed or patterned. So you need to respect that fluidity. Therefore, queer is a term that the community or some members of the community have embraced. And so we say we are here and we are queer. And we're here to stay. Okay? So queer is a word that we have embraced, like the word black. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
So when it comes to So when it comes to pornography, masturbation, all of these so like mostly the threat that you get from society is, oh, you're going to be an addict. So where is that line in there? I mean,
yes, the line you have to draw for yourself. When you realize, and many of us who are addicted to ganja or cigarettes or alcohol or sex sites, when you realize that you just can't do without it. And sometimes that's the problem of addiction. And you have to draw your line. But sometimes the person who is engaging with such materials or substances or let's say pornography doesn't know, and doesn't know, is so caught into it. And then other people say, you're always looking at sex sites here. I mean, it's okay. I mean, I'm not one of those who say pornography is bad, by the way. Okay? But any extent of pornography or booze, if you take it to extreme limits, there's going to be consequences. I mean, that's true of anything. You eat too many sweets, you have here. Okay? So any extremity is got its own problem. But then your friends, family, people who care for you in a way that means caring, they tell you, I think there's a problem here. And your friends say, you're just too much into sex. I remember we were students, many of my peers, not myself really, but many of my peers were into blue films. Sudhakar would go to sleep, and after that the magic happened. You remember those days, sir? Right? And in the hostel, I mean, you were in the hostel in those days. And but then that was it. So we tell too much getting hooked onto something is not okay. So you have to draw a line. If you don't know where the line is, your friends help draw that line for you. But then ultimately you have to fix it. If you get hooked onto YouTube all the time, even there you can draw a line. So all the time you want to know what's your status on WhatsApp or wherever else. All the time you're looking, all the time you're posting. I mean, everything in excess is a little, it's going to have its effect. Okay, yes please.
This problem of LGBTQ in India is recent, to say so. The topics of discussion on it have been very recent. They haven't been going on
Forever, okay.
Yeah, maybe in the past 2000s it has started. But in America, where it all converges at some point, does an economic stability, because I'm not superficial here, so America is pretty stable. So
Whatever that means, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
So does an economic situation somehow identify this problem also? Like let's just say a person who is a trans or something like that of the LGBTQ community, he would be more comfortable coming out if he's American than if he's Indian.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a connection between the economic stage of development of a country or nation. But we do know that the Stonewall riots, which happened in '69, if I'm not mistaken, was a significant boost to the gay movement. Okay? But it's not to say as if these problems have non-existent. They've been here right in India, but we've talked about it maybe more recently. So the sexual revolution of the 60s, the hippie movement, the women's movement, following the gay movement, now people are talking about it. I mean, it's not as if these identities did not exist. They've always existed. We didn't use these labels. I told you the labels came from that side. But Koti and Panti is not an American label anyway. A Koti is a feminized male. And a Panti is the feminized male, the Koti's partner. And they have this special bond. And they may both independently be married men living with their families and children. But they have this secret relationship going on. And they know about it, and that's all that matters. Koti-Panti relationship. Now this is not there in this alphabet, in the American alphabet soup. Yes, sir.
Like Bombay, Ashok Kavirao,
Yes,
he
yes.
started a magazine called Bombay Goes
Yes.
for 30, 40 years.
Yes, that's right. In fact, the Hamsafar Trust, Ashok Rao Kavi is one of the founding members. He started that magazine. He said, he's often talked about it. To my interviews with one of the members of the organization, he mentioned this. How in those days, even a magazine, to talk about issues which were LGBTQ, he spoke about gay issues particularly in that magazine, had to be so secretive. There was a post box number, and the magazine will go to that post box. The people who subscribed to the magazine would see anyone's looking. When you go to the post box in GPO, there used to be post boxes in the old days. I don't know where they still are. Even scared to go and get their own magazine, which they've subscribed to. Because if you were seen taking a magazine, then they would cover it. I remember I used to cover the books. I've got tons of books on issues related to sexuality during my last, 2 decades of reading. And in the train, I would take a book and I would cover it, the cover, because I didn't want people sitting opposite me that he's reading about gay rights movement or about some LGBT, something like that, whatever. And actually, today I'm brazen. I put it and I make sure that people in the compartment see what the name of the book is. I've gone to the other extreme. And then people also assess it there and let them be a little uncomfortable. 1 or 2 people engage a conversation also in the process. Sometimes I've had this idea, if we were to wear little things in our pockets or pin, like how you have a badge day for whatever purpose, if we wrote a badge with the idea to make people think about it in Marathi, Hindi, English, whatever, and you wore it on a day, at least one day in the month, wherever you went, it doesn't have to be a fancy badge, just paper, pen se haath se likho, Marathi mein. And just pin it up over here, and people say, "Hey, guy, tribal rights, tribal ke Adivasi rakhe." Then they'll ask you. Some of them will ask you. Maybe one, and maybe nobody will, but they will have noted it in a bus, train, Uber, wherever. It's a nice way of getting people to think about something. Otherwise, they might never have thought about it, you know. And yeah, that's yes.
So I'm an ex-student of
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated in 2016. So while I was in college, I actually did not talk much about like gender minorities or anything related to this. So my first question is that is it because of the legality procedure that has come to the pictures after Section 377, and that's how the entire movement and the entire voice movement was actually gained or pushed the legality framework?
Yes.
And the second question is an extension of her question that like she said that if somebody who's young is coming out, they have a lot of the concept of intersectionality. They belong from a certain class, and creed that plays a role and becomes much more problematic for those who come out.
Yes, absolutely right. And intersectionality, in fact, that is over here. I'll just read that and then respond, okay? This is one of the members in the research. I want to use the public platform for any cause. Issues of poverty affect me a lot. This is one person is telling me about it. Do you realize that poor people can also be gay? It took a straight guy to tell me that there is intersectionality. So when you talk about, let's say for example, lesbian woman. You're living in a patriarchal society, in a heteronormative society, and you are a woman, and you're a lesbian woman, and you are, let's say, leftist lesbian woman. Imagine the number of layers, and you're a tribal woman too. I mean, there are so many layers, and this is exactly the point of intersectionality. And it is not as if the movement, the identities of LGBTQI is limited to only the elite of society or the certain strata. It cuts across all barriers. And don't you for a minute even think that rural and tribal people do not have these kinds of identities or behaviors or the way they are. Two of my persons who were in the study were people who belong to tribal communities. And they said it's very, very difficult. And one of them told me in the course of the interview, at the beginning my father would not even accept such a notion. And I dealt with that emotional distancing for many years. Now my mother has come full circle and asked me, how's my boyfriend doing? But started off with a lot of pain and hurt. The second point, the first point you mentioned was about the legality of it. Very, very true. But the fact, the one good thing that the 377, and the verdict on that last year, has enabled many people start talking about it. Because in a sense, I said there's no magic with that 377 being gone. And it hasn't gone, it's just been read down. Okay. So the thing is, that has given those of us who identify with the alphabets or without the labels a sense that we belong, we are equal citizens in this land. Maybe that's no magic. I'm not going to have a lovely evening today. But I know in the back of my mind, my country doesn't see me as somebody who is bad. That's very liberating. And in fact, talking about legality, even the coming out is a liberating experience. I must end with this little thing about my own coming out in a nutshell. I just told my mom about, she told me, I just mentioned about some friend of mine, my college colleague, Wilson colleague, and showed photographs of the colleague and their children, his children. And mom told me, even you could have had. And it so happened in the flat where I live, in New Bombay, my mother and I share the same bed. I don't normally like that, but that's the only option I have in that particular place. It's a rather broad flat, so not into her kind of thing. So she's there and I'm here. And we were having this conversation. And then mommy said, but even you could have had. And I told mommy, but I'm not into girls. I'm not attracted to girls. I'm gay. That's how I came out, huh? There was no drama. I'm gay. Finished. And I went back to sleep. I don't know whether she slept. But next day morning, I woke up later than she did. A little later. Our late means 7 o'clock in the morning. That's in our home, 7 is late. 5 is normal. So mommy woke up earlier than me. And she was making tea for both of us. And when I got out of the bedroom, I realized Mum's in her own world, stirring, head in the clouds. And I knew she must be still pondering. And anyway, I went in to brush my teeth, etc., and came to the dining table. She sat opposite me there. I hear she was still had this confused look on her face. And she placed the tea in front of both of us. And she said, Mone, in Malayalam, what is gay? So then I told her what gay meant. Then her next question was, aimed with girls, this is there, or it's only with boys? I said, it can happen to anybody, including girls. Oh yeah, chai pi. That was it. The drama. Now, for me, maybe it was easy because one, I stand for what I believe in, and even if my mom did not accept it, I will still say, so what? So I'm not one of those who say, mommy is unhappy, she's got a depression, so okay, we're married. I mean, I was not going to change. So you've got to have that confidence. And the coming out thing, you need to be a little economically independent. Unfortunately, that's the class thing. But if you don't have the money and your parents throw you out, where the hell are you going to go? Your friends are not going to keep you in their home every day. Not for too long. So you need to be standing on your own feet. Now see, this extra burden comes on the people who belong to the community and need to say who they are. I am confident, I have a very good income, I'm well placed, I've got a place to stay because my parents bought it, not because I can afford it. And therefore, I have everything going for me. So even if mom says, you don't come back home, I still have a home. Or I can afford to pay the rent somewhere. So it's a class thing perhaps now. So this is it. So people, when I speak among activists, and they say it's important to be a little smart about how you come out, where you come out, to whom you come out. And this multiple coming out, just because I come out means, and that's not the end of my coming out story. I've come out to Vinita many years ago. I don't know whether I ever came out to you, Sudhakar. Maybe you might have, I don't know. But I don't think I consciously told Sudhakar about the fact that I was gay. But Vinita, I remember telling her, it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. So what if you're gay? So to who you come out? Should I come out to, I came out to my principal, just in a random conversation. I'm going for the thing, I'm gay, and I don't know what lightning might have struck her, but anyway, so what? Doesn't matter. So be smart about when you come out. Don't be foolish, because if you have nothing and then say, now get out of the house, where do you go? Anyway, that's it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to ask, you mentioned that in case we are not equipped with dealing with people who come out, so we should refer them to the counselor. Yes. Now, given the fact that at some point in time, psychology put this as,
Labeled it,
yeah.
yes.
So have you incorporated?
You're right. Now, there are LGBT-friendly counselors and there are non-LGBT-friendly counselors.
Have you incorporated in the syllabus of how to deal with them?
Officially, APA, that's the American Psychology Association, has already said that homosexuality, transgender, being transgender is not a psychological ailment. Period. End of story. Including the Indian Psychiatric Association has said that in no uncertain terms, the head of the institution. But counselors and psychiatrists themselves have they're not clear about issues related to LGBT because they're not trained in it. I mean, they're not trained. It's not in their syllabus. And there are people fighting to put it into their syllabus and making them sensitive to it.
So then where do we refer them?
There are psychiatrists, I can give you that list in the reference. There are people who are now consciously aware, and therefore you go to an LGBT-friendly psychiatrist or to a non-LGBT-friendly psychiatrist. So there are two kinds of psychiatrists or psychologists. So you've got to figure out, if this person will say, if you start reading the Bible, then say, sorry, Baba, I'm going the opposite direction. So I'll be coming to you for spiritual counseling. I'm talking about my identity issues, my relationship issues, and you're telling me read the holy book. That doesn't begin to solve my problem, perhaps. Or maybe I don't want to go there. Don't shove me into that corner. Okay, that's what you think is a solution. It may not necessarily be. I hope that answers. But I can give you a list. There is this gentleman, Dr. Prasad Dandekar. He's an oncologist, and he is creating awareness in medical circles and getting in touch with psychiatrists. Those are the people who prescribe medicines, by the way, to make them LGBT sensitive. And at a conference, last example, there was this person who was in the audience like you, and the psychiatrist up there on stage addressed that person as he or him or his. Immediately that person said, excuse me, please don't assume because you see a t-shirt and a jeans, I am a male. And of course, now you can't assume that I'm wearing a shirt and pant, let's say, I might be a trans person. How do you know that? I don't wear it on my sleeve. So if you're not sure, ask. Or if I tell you, I would like you to call me they, don't call me she or he, call me they. Now that's deconstruction of English grammar, of course. He, she, they. Okay, it's not, they is not plural. It's for persons who do not want to fit into the he or the she. It makes it complicated, but life, who said life's easy? It isn't. If we think it's easy, we are just too wrong about that. Any other questions? Can I please go back to my college? No. This is also my college. Sorry?
Could you give us the activity that you would...
Yes, definitely. Yeah. In fact, you have my PPT and the activities there. But I'd really love for you to give me feedback, especially on your academic program. Because I'd like to know how many of our courses, especially teachers, how many of us our departments can we say, please let's talk about gay movement, gay history, lesbian history. There is a Lesbian History Archives, LHA, which talk about women's stories and their narratives. So, I mean, why don't we use that in history? It doesn't always have to be about Shivaji and Shahu. It can also be histories of trade union, history of fashion, history of Western music, history of Sangeet. It could be history of anything. History is history, na? So we need to talk about LGBT history, transgender history. When we talk about those histories, we only talk about Maratha and Cholas and Indus Valley and go back 5,000 years all the time. We need to reach the present at some point of time. It's a constant battle even in academic circles, trust you me. Anyway, thank you yet again. And if you still want to ask me anything, I'm still around. I've taken half day CL anyway, so that's alright. Okay, cool.